every time I hear the story from you, it's always kind of touched me like I know him.
Yeah.
Even though I don't.
Oh,
I
you would have
didn't
loved
meet
you. He would have loved you. You would have loved him. I didn't meet anybody. Look, I mean, he tragically passed away, man. Like somebody walked in to a restaurant and he never came back out. Till this day, 7 years later, I still don't know what happened. We don't have answers. Nobody has any answers. I was with him for 10 to 12 hours a day, 10 hours for sure a day, for 13 years. I saw nothing that would make me think that something happened. I personally call it naivete, call it being gullible. I think they got the wrong person. Personally, that's me. That's what I think. Because there was nothing that I saw that made me think. And I got spidey sense too. You know what I mean? Like I could say, there's something off with this person, or he's getting, just I don't know. Why am I saying that? Because when I still don't know what happened, but I know how much he loved people, man. That's the main thing.
Okay. All right. We're back into this studio again. But the person I have here today, I mean, I know a lot of people will know him. I have Jas Takhar here. But before I let you introduce yourself, I want to tell my audience who this person means to me. Because I've, over the last, I would say over 3 years now that I've been in the business of real estate, you have been someone that I've learned a lot from. And I'm going to go back to I actually know you. I know if I let you introduce yourself, I won't remember this. So I want to say this before you even introduce yourself to my audience. I think about 2.5 years ago, which is January 2022, I spoke to one of my friends who is a mutual friend of ours, Steven Sargent. Shout out to Steven. And I said, Steven, I'm in real estate. I just got into it like couple of months. And I said, I want to create content. I want to know things about real estate, and I now want to be able to create content about it. And he sent me a voice note, literally probably 14 seconds. He sent your link to a link to your Instagram and said, anything content, real estate, to learn about real estate, sales and business, this is the only person you should follow. I've never heard about you before that. I click on your profile. The first video I watched, because I remember, for you to know, was a video you recorded. I think it was outside in the snow. You're talking about the importance of good relationship with tenant as a landlord, and you talk about what is the responsibility of a landlord. The first video, I'm like, I kind of like this Indian-looking man somehow, but I'm not sure if I should like reach out to him. So what I did for 3 months, I didn't send you a single message. I listened to close to 70% of all your podcasts. And you will know from our conversation that I listen to a lot of your podcasts. I was driving to Aurelia, as far as Aurelia is, to go sell some pre-construction. I'll be in the car, listen to this man podcast. And I recorded my first YouTube video, 100% based on what I learned from you. I've not even reached out to you. Just the day I reached out to you, you replied me as one of the kindest human being I've ever seen. I'm not saying this because you're here. If you have listened to any of my episodes, I think 50% of my episodes I talk about you. 50% of my episodes. And I came here in one of your podcasts. You said when people come to your office, you let them feel welcome right from the reception. And you mentioned you have your name outside, welcoming them. And I was nobody in terms of real estate, to be honest. Nobody. I read the reception and I saw welcome as this. I was like, oh. He said it in his podcast, and I can say it. You are one of the most authentic persons I've ever met. And I want you, I know a lot of my audience will know you, but there are still many that won't know who Jas is. I want you to go on and introduce yourself to my audience. Who is Jas Takhar?
Well, before I do that, like, let me take a moment here, to take in the stuff that you just said. Because when I started doing content, I was really hoping to just inspire some of my clients, and business develop, get people to reach out to me, buying, selling, and investing. What I didn't even think about, and I would be lying if I tell you that was my strategy, is inspiring other people in the business. And so everything you just said, I really tried to make sure that I not only heard what you said, but I was listening. I can't tell you, like, your viewers, and your listeners can't see it, but like I got goosebumps right now. So
I can feel
that
it.
means a lot
I know.
to me, because like I said, I was just trying to do some business with some of my clients, and then to hear what you had to say, I want to say thank you from the bottom of my heart. Number one. Number two, I kind of want to flip it, and I will take the time to introduce myself in a second, but I want to give you flowers and congratulate you because I've also been noticing how much you're coming out in content. The viewers and listeners, if you're taking your dog for a walk or you know, on the treadmill right now, he's not doing it by himself. Don't let him lie to you. There's someone behind the scenes who's actually really putting it all together. Shout out to the producer, I'll call her, who's obviously your better half.
Yes.
But we need more people like you, brother, that are just putting themselves out there even when they're not comfortable. And I think that is the rose that's the rose that I want to give to you.
Thank you.
Because I know when you were starting this, and as humbled as I am, you know, you would say to me when we would cross paths, like, I'm not going to have you on yet. I'm not ready, you know. And even today, just before we started for 13 seconds, you said, like, okay, now I feel like I'm ready. But I always thought you were ready from day one anyways, because what does ready really mean? You know, like nobody's ready to get started in majority of things, right? But you took action, and I've seen it over and over again from you. So congratulations.
Thank you,
and
Jas.
for the viewers, there's a lot of cameras here, right? Give this man his respect from the perspective of give him a chance. Watch his content. Listen to his content. You might come across and say, look, I don't like him. Great. At least you tasted it. Right? And to your community, go one step further. I'm asking you guys, not because I like Aziz, forget that. But if you see something that was valuable that he put out, you hear something that was valuable, just, it doesn't take a lot of time. Just share it with one friend, like one friend. Because from what I know, correct me if I'm wrong, Aziz, you're not charging people for the content that you're putting out.
No.
Right?
No.
You're not charging people. So the fee, because nothing in life is really free. The fee to you is share it with a friend, share it with a colleague at work, share it with a neighbor, and I know how appreciative he would be of it. Myself, Jas Takhar, born and raised in north part of Toronto in an area called Rexdale. It's kind of the area where sometimes people tell you to put up your windows and lock your doors. But it wasn't as bad when you grew up in there. But there was definitely, you know, at some of the corners, not the mentors that I advise other people to go and get in their lives. But me, myself, I was very sheltered. Even born and living in Rexdale for 25 years or something like that. I was sheltered because I had two older brothers and my father and mother. Father, grade 8 education from India, taxi driver his whole life. Grade 4 education for my mother, factory worker her whole life. And my two older brothers, they really sheltered me from it. And they told me a lot that they loved me. Like, I'm not ashamed to say it. You know, I was with my parents last night. They live with my brother, so I try to see them as much as I possibly can, and that means, like, you know, trying to do like even once a week, which some would say it's not a lot or whatever it may be, but like, you know, still kissing each other, still hugging each other. I grew up in that, and I think that's what my parents gave me the most of, because they didn't give me like business acumen. They weren't in it. They didn't know it. They were just trying to. What they did is they gave me the love, Aziz, and they gave me this, and I probably didn't come across this, like actually pinpoint what they did, because a lot of people get love, and it's awesome. But if you have kids now, you have nephews, you have nieces, I think in any relationship you should do this. What I pinpointed was they gave me the approval of failing.
Oh, okay.
So no matter what I did, they would give me the love, tell me they love me. Didn't matter how many times I failed. And in school, I failed all the time. Or I just barely passed.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But my parents were always like, it's okay. Doesn't matter. You know, my father, I don't even think I've ever mentioned this, so you're getting it out of me now. Like, and this is not like, you know, I'm sure a lot of parents do this as well. But for me, it was big, man. And I know my brothers, my two older brothers, we always talk about this. My father always said to us, it doesn't matter what you do outside, i.e., you failed. You started a business, you failed, it didn't work out. You bought a house, you can't afford it.
You have to sell it or something.
Right? You killed somebody, something happened, like drastically. I know I'm taking it to the extreme. His note to us was always, come home. Come home. We will figure it out. Okay. So now that gives you this safety net of, wow, okay, the two most important people in my life, mother and father, if they're okay, if I fail, then I'm just going to try shit. So I just been trying a lot of stuff since I've been 12 years old, specifically knocking on doors at that age, selling newspapers, getting, you know, told to leave people's property. On the flip side, I met a lot of cool people that were just kind of kind to me. And then I started to feel like, oh, I got a knack at this. Like, I make people smile. I like when they smile. I get paid to knock on doors, okay? Started selling shoes. Went from shoes to the banking industry, car sales for about 3 years, which is always an interesting business. And now real estate for 20 years. We got a cool team of agents that help people buy, sell, and invest, things that you do. You were on our team as well, and then like a lot of our agents flourish. Like, that's actually my favorite part. I know what you did. Yes. It's actually my favorite part to watch, because a lot of people say to me, like, how do you retain agents? How do you keep agents and stuff? I'm like, look, my job is to have them leave, because then I think we did what our mission is, which has left a ripple effect.
Exactly.
You know, like, look, do I think I can change the whole world? No, I'm not that naive, but I can make changes with the people that come into my world, right? And if that change means it's going to give Aziz the confidence to now put out content, A, B, do more deals, build more relationships, use the sign that we use it for his business, I think we did our part. Like, we should be helping as leaders so much that people leave.
Just, you mentioned something that I'm going to really touch on. When I was leaving your team, I was confident because of what I learned from you. I was confident that I don't feel like I'm going to fail, because I think I learned a lot. I was there for exactly 1 year, and I don't only learn from you, I learned from top agents within the team, and someone that I call my mentor as well today. You might know her, Marlene.
Oh yeah.
So
Marlena,
yes,
Karnakia.
Yes.
Oh my
Marlene.
God. It's like one of my favorite people in the whole wide world.
I know. we might touch on something.
Her and I have a deep, long relationship. Continue.
So Marlene is one of the most amazing person I met in the team. We still talk this morning. This morning we had a conversation. That's how much I really respect her. So if I'm going to tell you, leaving the team, how much I learned from it, I think when I was leaving, I was just so confident because of what I learned, and especially with the immersion program, that was what changed my business completely. I know a lot of people who did it, they don't see what they're looking for, but that program changed my business. I want to ask you something. You mentioned you've been in the business for 2 decades, 20 years.
In the real estate business.
In the real estate business. You've been in sales before then. And I'm going to ask a little bit of question about the sales experience as well. But I want to ask you, when you get into real estate 20 years ago, there was social media, but there was no, this power of social media was not there.
Well, in all honesty, Aziz, 20 years ago, there was no social media, man.
Yeah, I mean, people might say, oh, there's internet.
Oh, yeah. But
there's nothing about how powerful, we don't know how powerful it is.
But, like, really quickly, 20 years ago, as a real estate agent, my cell phone, I'm just trying to remember right now, my cell phone wasn't even a BlackBerry at that time. I had like a Palm Pilot.
Wow.
Okay, and we still had pagers.
Yeah, pagers is what I heard from a lot of agents.
Yeah, so when I got into the business 2003, end of 2003, early 2004, we still had pagers.
And that was where I'm going.
Okay.
When you started as an agent, tell me how does the business look like? How did you even survive without the power of social media at that time? Because I look back, I always respect people that own business in the last 5-10 years. You see them doing cool things, making a lot of money. But I see people that have been in business for like 35 years. And I ask myself, 35 years ago, there was no social media. Even email, newsletter was not really that strong. How would I have survived? How did you survive?
Yeah,
Tell me.
so what we did, and I still do it now, and it's kind of cool that you asked this question because driving in today, I was thinking about a new piece of content that I want to put out, which is called Old School versus New School, right? And the video's concept is going to be that the successful guys in any real business, but definitely in sales, they merge the two. Got it? So old school meaning what we did 20 years ago, which I'll touch on, and then obviously new school is texting people, social media, this world that we live in right now, which is podcasting. Old school, what we did really well back then was put on a lot of events. So I talk about that now, obviously,
Yes,
the
of course.
importance of doing it now. It's easier to get people to events now because you can use social media. Back then, what we were doing was just calling people always and inviting them to the events. The other thing that we did a lot consistently was knocking on doors. You had to do that stuff. That's the old school stuff. There was still cold calling, but more importantly, what we still do now is warm calling. This device is cool because you can shoot videos from it, but long before you have all the internet and all the apps on it, there was this one app that you can still use today. It's called the phone app. Like you can still dial people.
You can still call numbers.
Yeah, just like, you know what I mean? Like now, maybe 30, 50 years ago, it was attached to a wall, but now, I just don't think a lot of people are using it. They're not using the process they're not using it from the perspective of actually calling people. So that is what we did consistently. That's how we survived. Was it tougher? Yes, because I was doing offers without the internet. I was doing offers on the trunk of a car.
I know.
You know what I mean? On the hood of the car. We did that a lot. Like if you ask me now, there was this part of that business that was kind of cool though. Like I still kind of miss it because, now you text other agents when you're negotiating a deal. And I still, like when I'm negotiating a deal with an agent, I'm like, hey, like when do you have 2 minutes to talk? Because can we get, like, you're representing the buyer or the seller. I'm representing the buyer or the seller. Our jobs as the agents, or like we're kind of middlemen or middlewomen, right? And so why don't we let's get on the phone and
talk.
I get the efficiency of texting and emailing, but man, I don't even think they use this term in real estate anymore. We used to use it all the time. It was called, let's have a meeting of the minds. Let's get together. What are you guys looking for? This is what we're looking for, and then we'll kind of meet somewhere, right? And I just think that's been lost now in today's day and age. With that said, you can be faster with certain things, right? Like you couldn't put out content like this, man. This didn't exist. So what we did, to answer your question fully, is we were doing a lot of events. It's why I kept doing them. It's another reason I say to a lot of agents and salespeople, like, if it didn't work, I'm not a smart guy. Like the smartest guy, I'm not the biggest idiot. I'm somewhere in between. And so what I would focus on is doing all of it. Because the more things that you throw at the wall, you have a better chance of them sticking.
That's true. And I know you've mentioned how you were able to survive. Then you touch on social media now, but I want to just quickly go back to that social media. When did you realize that I have to put social media as part of my strategy? When did you decide to go all in on social media? And why?
Exactly 7 years ago.
Okay.
So that's exactly when it happened, 7 years ago. And I know the time to answer your question why, because we had a third partner in my business, and he tragically passed away.
I'm going to touch on it.
And so I won't go too deep into it now based on what you might be asking me later, but that's when I realized that I had to have some type of voice.
Okay.
Because he was the face and the voice. Okay. And I loved it that he was the face and the voice. So this is not something that I wanted to do. This is not something that I grew up to do. Like, oh, let me get in front of the camera. And people who are like, for lack of a better term, like they love that stuff, are narcissistic about it. Do you? I could care less. But me, I was very uncomfortable with it, but I had no choice. At that time, I shouldn't even say I didn't have a choice. Let me rephrase that, because we always have a choice, but I didn't like my choices. I didn't like my alternative, which was get out of the business.
Okay.
Because he left his passing left a massive, massive gaping hole in our business. Life, completely different. There's still a little hole in me because of that. But business, it's just black and white. It's binary. Like, we knew if one of us, myself and my current partner right now in the real estate company, if we didn't take the bull by its horns, we were going to lose all the momentum we had for 13 years at that time.
Wow.
Right? And so the reason I went into social media wasn't because, the way that I did it wasn't through like short form video. The way that I went through it was podcasting.
I remember you mentioned that.
That's where I started it all.
Which is, funny,
Yeah.
7 years ago.
Yeah.
Before you even now said, okay, let me start doing short reels, you started with the long form. And
Yeah.
you mentioned a lot about how challenging it was for you to start. You don't want to put yourself in front of camera. And I'm just going to touch on that, even it's not part of what I thought I want to ask you. When you were doing this social media thing, when you started, is there anyone that kind of motivate you or kind of you watch? Because
1,000%, I can answer that for you. Gary Vee.
I know. You
Hands
mentioned
down.
him a lot.
Hands down. Like, it wasn't the only way that I didn't even know what the word podcast was. So I was never like a Joe Rogan fan or anything. Like, I didn't know that. Like, I like them now. I know podcasts now. But I stumbled upon a Gary Vee video. I can't remember which one, or anything of that sort. I'm like, what the heck is this guy talking about? He just keeps talking. I'm like, oh, I kind of like his style. Like, he's in this area in New Jersey. I don't know where he's from exactly in New Jersey, but he's swearing. He's talking that he owns a business, but like, he doesn't dress like it.
It doesn't look like one.
Doesn't look like it. And then one video, I went into a rabbit hole of maybe about a week of watching, I don't know, at least 30 hours.
I think that's exactly what I did for you, with you.
Probably. It's actually the flip. That's a great point what you're saying. Yeah.
And I didn't reach out.
Yeah.
And I listened to your podcast for three to 4 months.
And that's the cool thing with content, right? Then you just go like
Yeah.
layers. And I'm watching. And then in one of those videos, he said podcast. I'm like, what the hell is a podcast? And I searched it online. And then I realized, I was like, oh, this is kind of cool. Like, it's only audio. It's free. Of East Indian descent, and my mom negotiates over apples back home, so I love that.
I do that too.
I was like, it's free, it doesn't cost me anything. And the third thing was interesting to me as well, which was I can talk about and say anything I want, and there's no regulatory body that can stop it. Like, I knew I wasn't going to talk about extreme stuff, like I'm not into that stuff, but at least if I throw an F-bomb, if I stutter, because there was this part that, as I deep down, as I did more of a deep dive into podcasting, it mentioned like the the ahs, like how we've been talking now. Exactly. It's okay. And I was like, wow, this might be exactly down my route. I think the number one thing, in all honesty, I make the joke about it being free and all that kind of stuff. That all played a part. I liked the fact that there was no camera needed. So my partner was amazing in camera. Like, the charisma that he had, the knowledge that he had, the confidence that he had to be on stage and speak in front of the camera was unbelievable. It actually was what drew me to him, right? I didn't have that, but I knew I'd been on the phones for, at that time, 23 years. I've been selling stuff, and nobody's ever told me, like, you have a bad voice. No, not that anybody said you have the most sexiest voice in the world, like any of that stuff, but it was still like, oh, okay, I could speak into a mic. This is cool. So I did my first, don't quote me on this, but at least about 13 to 14 episodes I did on just audio. I never put the camera on. No. And then I had a big interview in the real estate sales industry world with a guy named Ryan Serhant in New York.
I listened to that episode.
You probably watch. Yeah,
I've listened to the podcast.
So if you actually watch that, it's interesting. Really quickly.
I know you wear a suit or something in that.
Yes, yeah, all that stuff. Yeah, I do own suits. I don't just own T-shirts and hoodies. It was the first time ever that I recorded a podcast on video. But here's the like, I'm so glad that we recorded that, because I can tell the story now. I never look at the camera.
I think I noticed that. I watched that podcast.
Nervous.
You were focusing on just talking to him, not looking at the camera. I was like, maybe that's just you focusing on him. But I listened to one of your podcasts. I'm like, oh, yeah.
You know how you started today's podcast? Like, you just went into it. I did the same thing. because I was like, if I have to do an intro, then I have to make like eye contact with the camera. Like, no way am I ever going to make eye contact. You know what I mean? I'm not doing that. And the only reason I recorded it is because somebody on my team at that time said, Jas, you have to record this because otherwise nobody's going to believe that you went there. Wow. And they need to see you. Yes. And I was like, okay, I'll do it, but I'm not speaking to it. What happened, a magical thing happened. I got the footage. I brought it back to the house, this house, at the office. And that same team member, I don't know, like, I think 2 hours later, 3 hours later, he gave me a folder, Google folder. I didn't even know what the hell that was at that time. And it had a bunch of clips in it.
Short clips.
And I was like, yo, bro, what is
do
this? And he's like, well, I told you. Like, you said some kind of cool things here. And so did Ryan. More Ryan said things. I hardly said anything. Post them. I was like, where? He's like, just post it on all your other social media platforms. And when I did that, I saw people commenting on the little videos, and they're like, where's the full video? Where's the full video? And I started sending people to the full video, and then I was like, Gary. That's when it all came together. I was like, this is what he was talking about. I've never looked back. I'm at 200 and
I think 260 something.
No, I think I recorded 280 last week or something.
The last one I listened to was 260 something.
Yeah. So you don't listen to all of them. Thank you very much. But
I tried.
I know. So that's where I said I'm just not going to stop. Now I change what I talk about, but if it wasn't for podcasting in my content life, in my content world, I owe everything to podcasting. And then if you go one level up, I owe everything to the guy in my content world, to Gary, because without him, I just never would. Look, man, there's a saying, right? When the student is ready, the teacher will show up.
That's exactly
right, and it's true. Like I was ready for I got to do something. Partner passed away. We got to figure something out, and then that's it. The teacher showed up.
I want you to touch on something really quick because there's more part of this episode that I think I want you to talk about. But this one really quick. Do you think you coming from a sales background? Do you think it's really helped your career at the beginning, or you think if you hadn't even come from sales background, you might have still be able to do what you'd be able to do now?
As Jas Takhar, no, I don't think I would be able to do what I'm doing now without the sales. Like that sales is such a big part of my life. Like I think, and I'm taking my time to make sure that, I'm not contradicting myself, but yeah, it's safe to say if you took the ability of selling away from me, and I'm not mincing words, and I'm not trying, like I want everyone to understand that, like, I'm being very sensitive to this word, but I think that's the only word that comes to my mind right now. I think I might fall into depression, right? And I'm not saying that lightly. It's just that, like, I'm the kid that, if from a sales perspective, I haven't done anything else ever. God put me, and I'm not trying to get super religious here, but I have faith. God put me at a banquet hall for 6 months as a summer / weekend job to work as a busboy for one reason. It's the only other job I've ever had other than sales. Oh. God put me in that position because a lady walked in and she asked for a table, and I gave the table as the busboy. She went home, told her mother I met the guy that I'm going to marry for the rest of my life. I was 16 years old.
Wow.
Her mother said, he doesn't even know who the hell you are. She said, he will. 5 years later, I bump into her again, and that's my wife.
Wow.
My kid's name
I've never heard this story from you.
I've never told it. My kid's name is Millen. The banquet hall's name was Millen.
Wow.
Because that means something in our language. That means the gathering of, like, we're all milling right now. Well, that's what we're doing here. That's the only reason I've ever had a job outside of the sales industry. Ever. Wow. I've never done anything else. Ever. Here's a quick one.
You your wife.
That's where God said, I'm going to put you there for whatever reason. Put me there. That's exactly where my wife met me for the first time. And she was right. I had no clue. It wasn't like, I was working. Like, you know what I mean? She's like, give me a table. She was like, we're Indian. We have 800 people at our wedding. You know what I mean? That's how we do weddings, kind of thing. That's is exactly why that all happened.
Wow.
But so to your point, sales is so in me. I love the relationship building. Like now I think I'm in a different part of my career. Now it's like I'm in the part of my career like I'm trying to give it back to people now. Like it's no fun when you're the only one who's winning. You know, like it's just I get way more, and maybe there's people who are like, nah man, I want to take it all. Who am I to judge? I just for myself enjoy, like I'm gonna be on such a high of what you said earlier, not because you were talking about me. It's just because I felt what you were saying, man. Like that, and for me to have a 0.0000001% involvement in a little bit of success,
Far more than 1 0
but
for me.
I'm saying 0.0001. You know what I mean? For me to have that with, you know, my camera guy in the room right now and my team back at the back, like that means the world to me, man.
And I think you need to know that a lot of people might not be able to say this to you because they might not have the opportunity of having this, you know, you in a podcast room, but you've influenced a lot. They've been into, and this is not me just coming with this data. I think, I don't think, 70% of people that I know in real estate today are directly from you or indirectly from you or someone that I know through you introduced me to them. I'm in the Word Genius, you know, community now. Afonso Cordra, I listened to 2 episodes that he did with him. I know a lot of people. I know Mandy, which I didn't even know that they know you.
Oh yeah.
And every time I mention like, oh, I learned from a guy, Jas Takhar, they're like, oh, we know Jas. We know. So our world keep kind of connecting because I know you. And I want to kind of go back now to Rexdale. I want to ask you about Rexdale because I don't know Rexdale. Obviously, I'm an immigrant. I moved here about 5 years ago. So you were born here.
Yeah.
You know that country. I didn't know that place very well. I've been there like 2-3 times, but I did some Googling about why do people talk about Rexdale like more. So I realized that in 2018 they have almost 50 shootings.
Is that okay? It's 2018.
2018.
I left 2008. I think.
So.
Yeah.
2018,
Yeah.
which is like 6 years ago.
Yeah.
And they said before that 2018, like 2.5 decades, Rexdale has been known to be a place where a lot of people live in terms of multinational community, people from Asia, even people from Africa. So it makes the community good. However, it comes with its own challenges that a lot of crime, a lot of negative things are being attached to Rexdale.
Yep.
2-3 episodes ago, I have Tristan here, Tristan Clunies.
Oh yeah.
And I asked him some questions, and one thing he said as well was he grew up in one of the roughest part of Scarborough. And from what I know, from what I've heard, a lot of people that grow up in that kind of environment, it somehow kind of affect what they might be in life. How did you manage growing up in Rexdale, that I know now that it has a lot of challenging statistics? How did you ended up not joining any bad gang?
I'll go back to because I was sheltered by my parents, and in that sense, my 2 older brothers, like my father and mother, they probably didn't even know how bad it was. My brothers did. I got a brother who's 4.5 years older than I am, and the other one's like 9.5 years old. I was scared shitless of them. Like they told me right from the start, like we hear something or see something, we are gonna beat the crap out of you. Like and they had full opening and they were allowed to do it. Like my dad said, I actually probably got more parented by my brothers than my parents.
I know you've mentioned that.
Yeah, my father. This is not an exaggeration. It's like real. He worked 24 hours and then had to sleep the next day. So it was day on, day off. That's how we know the business, the taxi business. He worked at the airport. So at the airport, you have a flight at 6 o'clock in the morning. You need to be picked up at 3 o'clock.
Yes.
Got it? 2:30 you need to be picked up because you got to be at the airport at 3. Okay? So my dad would work 24 hours, and then the next day he would probably sleep for, he's catching up on sleep, 10 hours. Right? So I didn't really have that many interactions with my father. My mother doesn't know English, really. Like she knows the F words because she hears us say, like she knows, she doesn't really know English, right? So she had no real clue what was going on. She, like when we were watching South Park, she thought, oh my God, that's good. They're watching cartoons. But if you ever watch South Park, you know what that's all about, right? Like that's not a cartoon that kids should be watching. But anyways, my brothers, they wouldn't have any of it. And I, at certain times, 13, 17-ish, I did not have the love that I have for my brothers now. Because I knew they punished me.
They were too hard on you.
Like, they would beat the shit out of me, period. Like, that's it. They would have nothing. That's why I said I was so protected in the sense of, like, I just knew I didn't, knock on, touch black anyways. I didn't get into any real trouble. So that's one way that I stayed away from it. I think where it's helped me, though, on the flip side, a couple of things. One, it gave me very thick skin. Okay. Thick skin because I was at the age of 14, is when I cut my hair. Okay. Meaning up until 14, I used to have a turban.
Oh, okay.
Okay. And growing up, it's not the way that it looks now in terms of we're not being not a white person. We're now kind of the majority. Right? It's safe to say. Back then, it wasn't like that. So, I mean, we had, kids could be mean, man. And so they would want to use my turban as an ashtray. Or, there was a lot of slurs that they would throw. But you get into some fights. You get to protect, you realize, okay, like, I can't probably take that guy on. Like, you kind of get smart about it. You get your wits about yourself. But I got thick skin. Where none of the stuff now, like when somebody on my content says this guy's an idiot, I don't even think about it.
What they said.
It doesn't bother. I actually think about them. Like there's probably hurt people.
That's true.
Right? When you're hurt, then the easiest way to get out of hurt is to hurt somebody else. That's what most people do. And so for me, it gave me thick skin. Number two, it was very multicultural later on. Right? Like when I was 16, 17, I started to see, oh my God, like I've had friends from Africa from long time.
Wow.
Long time. My best friend is Chinese, one of them. Anyways, another guy's Sri Lankan, two of these guys. So like, I just know a lot of cultures that help me in sales. I can connect with a lot of people, like I was in Chicago and just a couple of weeks ago. And for some reason, all of our Uber drivers were from Cameroon.
Wow.
Okay? Just weird. I don't know what it is. 8, 9 Ubers we took or something like that, Clyde. And it was like all of them were for Cameroon. But he'll remember. Easily, I can connect with Cameroon because I'm like, whoa, 1994 World Cup, man. Like, you guys, and we start talking. You know what I'm saying?
Right?
They say Nigeria. I'm like, okay, I know the soccer team, blah. I can make connections really quickly, right? I've had all the foods. So I can talk about the food, like, oh man, I had it. So it helped me connecting with people, building rapport, which helps you build relationships. You build relationships, you have a very high probability of doing business with people.
Wow. I want to go back to your brothers. I know you've mentioned them a lot in many of your podcasts. And I know you said they're the one that let you stay on ground and know what you're supposed to do.
100%.
But there's one person that I've heard, probably you've mentioned him, you've even started mentioning his name today.
Yeah.
You've talked about this man in maybe 10 or 15 of your episodes that I've listened to. Mm-hmm. You mentioned him as someone that you think he kind of give you clarity about how your career will be. You learn from him. Unfortunately, I don't get to meet him. I don't get to know him. Simon.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying this because you've mentioned him a lot in podcasts, but I've met about 5 people that when I was with REC, when they heard REC, they always go back and say, oh, I remember Simon. So I'm like, this man is known by a lot of people. Yeah. And 100% of them, 100% say good things about this man. And I told you today as well, his sister Marlene, she's my mentor. And the first time I met Marlene, we went to Starbucks to sit down and meet. She doesn't even know that I know a little bit about his brother. And he started saying things that he learned. He said he passed away now. That was when I connected, like, wait, you're Simon's sister? And she said, yeah. They've always said a lot of good things about him. Who is Simon to you?
Simon, to me, was my mentor for 13 years. He was my third older brother. And he was a very close friend. Only nobody at my wedding outside of like the wedding party spoke, except for Simon. He wasn't even like asked to speak. He just took the mic. That's who he was.
he
He just went to my MC and said, "I need to speak." It's like, I just need to speak. I'm glad that we recorded that on video because I have that for the rest of my life. And you know, he was sharp, man. He was very, very sharp. Like, even the speech, because now I'm thinking about it. You know, he said the first time he met me, he's like, I saw this guy smile. I never seen someone smile like that. And he's like, until I met the better smile, which was his wife's. And my wife has a beautiful smile. But he was sharp. Like, he just knew. Like, he didn't think of, like, nobody told him that he had to do a speech, right? So he was sharp. He was on his feet a lot. He was caring, loving. He pushed me hard. Like, he didn't let me get away with stuff. I am a product of 10, 12 people, really. My two older brothers. You know, my parents, they're like, I don't put them in the 10, 12. Like, it's so hot. It's pedestal stuff. It's like saying God. You know what I mean? It's like God, my parents, and then, like, you know, everyone else kind of. But, like, my two older brothers, Simon, and then I have some older cousins and some other mentors I've met along the way. But he, I love that guy so much, man. Like, he gave me so much. He gave me an opportunity. Even him, though, like, again, God puts you in weird places that you might think at that time, but they're generally for reasons, right? And I was actually 3 months in the business of real estate with a different company, and I was getting hit with rejection so much at the age of 23 for the first 3 months. I was like, shit, maybe I'm not supposed to do real estate. Like, I was doing car sales at a very high level. I was doing like 400 cars a year. I was doing really well for a 23-year-old. I was making $80,000-$90,000 back then. As a 23-year-old, I had no expenses. I had a $40 a month phone bill. Cars free, insurance free, gas free. I'm in the car business. I didn't need this. So for 3 months, I was like, what am I doing in this business? Like, this is crazy. Like, I'm out. And as I never really went to the real estate office, but I just went in one day, probably to just collect the mail to get out. And a fax came through. I'm really aging myself. A fax came through that said, free business development seminar. I was like, free business development seminar? All right, where is it? It's in Mississauga. It's a 15, 20-minute drive. I go there, and there's 150 people in this room. 80% of them are Indian. So it's not like I stick out, okay? And 150 people in the room. And he starts asking questions. And people start putting up their hands, and I'm putting up my hand. And it comes to something along the lines of, like, who has a good website? And I'm like, me. I put up my hand. He's like, okay, great. He's like, okay, you. How many deals have you done from your website? I'm like, none. He's like, how many leads have you got? I'm like, none. He's like, so you think you still have a good website? And like, he kind of picked on me out of 150 people. Wow. So he went hard. He picked on me. I called him the next day. I was like, bro, I love that shit. Like you picked on me. Thank you, because I learned something. But how do I get closer to you? You know, like, and he's like, come, I have a coaching company. Come see me. I come see him. Him and I talk for about 20 minutes. He has my name on a piece of paper. That's where I learned it from.
Wow.
Okay. But he went one step further, because he had in the back of his mind, he didn't want me in his coaching company. He printed business cards with my name on it. I'm like, holy shit, what the hell is this? I'm 23 years old, right? So I'm getting kind of wowed here. Office downtown, nothing like huge. Marlene will know about it. And he says, bro, forget your coaching. Forget the coaching company. He's like, I need someone who's young, and I need some help on my end, and I'll teach you the business. I said, Simon, I promise you, buddy, I will give you, the next 2 to 3 years of my life. Please don't lie to me. Don't tell me you're going to help me and not help me. I will clean your toilets. I will do whatever needs to get done here. You tell me at midnight to go drop off a for sale sign. I'll drop off that for sale sign, and then I'll come to your house just to report, like, whatever you need. I know I'm good in sales. I just don't know how to speak real estate yet. Language. I don't know how to speak it. The truth is, I don't know why there has to be a furnace filter. I don't know anything about a house. Like, I don't maintain my own. I don't know. I don't know when a roof needs to be changed. Like, you know what I mean? He's like, don't worry, I'm going to teach you. He stuck to his word. And about 5 years into our relationship, we just started getting bigger. We started recruiting more people. Our team started to grow. At about 8-9 years is when I became partner in REC, and then our my current partner Simeon came a couple of years later, and I gotta tell you, man, like 2 days before he passed away, we were doing an event, and he said to me, "So you ready? Like, you gonna go do it?" And I was like, right. I was like, "Where are you going? What do I have to worry about? Like, I love my life right now. You go on stage, you do the event. People reach out and say they want to buy real estate. They come to me, the closer. It's a perfect match. You set them up, I close them. You set them up, I close. That's kind of how we did it, you know? And I'm saying like a hard sales line in terms of closing. Like, we did the consultation, And now looking back, I was like, where are you going? 2 days later, he passes away.
Yeah.
And so there was something that he was also trying to get me to start doing. Actually, literally 24 hours before he passed away, Simon was a guy that he liked the sound of his voice probably even more than I did, in all honesty. And anytime, so like if he was in this room and I left, like when we left and finished up, he would tell me what I didn't do right. He would always coach me. Always coach me. He would hear me on the phones. And I'm good on the phones. I suck at majority of stuff.
I've learned a lot from you.
Yeah, no. That's my skill set. Like, I've been doing it for 30 years. I should know what I'm really doing. 24 hours, him and I, we were on a boat, and we worked from the boat that day. And I was making phone calls for 6 hours. We were working, like real work. We weren't just having fun on the boat. And for 6 hours, he heard me on the phone, Aziz. He didn't say one thing to me. I came home, and my wife was just like, how's your day and all that kind of. And I was like, funniest, weirdest thing happened today. She's like, what? I was like, Simon heard me on the phone for 6 hours. He didn't say anything.
He didn't correct you today.
He didn't say anything, like at all. Not one thing. Not like, Jas, you could have done this. Why did you say this? Oh my God. Hey, by the way, nothing. Like, not a word. And obviously, I can look back and I know why. He knew this guy's. I have nothing to teach him. From a sales perspective, there's nothing to teach Jas. And 24 hours later, he passed away, man.
I've heard the story of how you got to know how he passed and everything. You don't need to repeat that here. It's every time I hear the story from you, it's always kind of touched me like I know him.
Yeah.
Even though I don't.
Oh, you would have loved you. He would have loved you. You would have loved him. I didn't meet anybody. Look, I mean, he tragically passed away, man. Like, somebody walked in to a restaurant and he never came back out. Till this day, 7 years later, I still don't know what happened. We don't have answers. Nobody has any answers. I was with him for 10 to 12 hours a day, 10 hours for sure a day, for 13 years. I saw nothing that would make me think that something happened. I personally call it naivete, call it being gullible. I think they got the wrong person. Personally, that's me. That's what I think, because there was nothing that I saw that made me think. And I got spidey sense too, you know what I mean? Like, I could say, there's something off with this person, or he's getting just, I don't know. Wow. Why am I saying that? Because when I still don't know what happened, but I know how much he loved people, man. That's the main thing.
And that's the exact thing you said now. How everyone that talk about him that are not even in real estate. I remember one of them is like a friend of mine. We do blockchain together. He said he invited him to the office, like he was talking about real estate, and he said he was so nice, man. He talked to me very nicely. Like, it's just a people's person. Like, people love to talk to him. Yeah. I want to ask you a question.
And quickly. I know our team's giving us like 5 minutes. Go an extra 5 minutes, 7 minutes. Okay, I'm having too much fun. So just go an extra 5, 10 minutes.
I'm going to really touch on something, like, just to kind of wrap up that part of the conversation. What do you think is going to, if you look back, like if he was able to look back and see you now with what you've done, what you've achieved, how do you think he's going to feel?
Oh, I'm like, he's so proud. He's so proud. I know he's sitting and saying, I am very proud of you, Jas. I know that to be true, because we also kept the dream alive. Yeah. His dream was to keep the team going. He enjoyed empowering other people. It's what he did with me. I'll always remember something that, my favorite artist, writer, poet, whatever you want to call him, is Tupac. And he always said that he's not going to change the world, but he's going to inspire the person that does. And I actually think, in a weird way, Simon's doing that. Not to say I'm changing the world, but
You are.
we keep paying it forward as much as possible.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? And so with that in mind, I know he's looking at all of us, his sister included, that he's proud. Because I just know how he spoke. Like 13 years is a deep relationship, 10 hours a day. And we did a lot of traveling together as well. So you get to know people when you break bread with them for constantly so much time. We ate a lot together, him and I. He's smiling. And he's probably also saying like, this is what you were supposed to do.
Wow.
You were supposed to have content. Like, because I used to tell him how much I hated it and how scared I was and but he would be always the voice. What I say to people now, just get started. It gets easier. It gets easier. It gets easier. But when he was on, like, I think, if I'm being really, really humble and criticizing myself, I think out of a 10 being like an amazing stage speaker, I think I'm flirting around 6.1 right now.
Right now?
Like personally, like I know where I want to be.
I'm going to argue that.
And I appreciate that. And I'm not just saying that in terms of just trying to be humble and no, like if I really look at where I want to be and where I'm at,
okay.
like I think I'm a 6.1.
I get it. Let me quickly talk.
And where I think Simon is at, like where he was at, like a 9.1. People gravitated to him.
And I think I agree with that. People that they met me outside of real estate and know him, that's exactly what they say. I want to, because I know they've been telling us we have a few minutes, which we're going to kind of go a little bit overboard. I want to go back to like when you started real estate, and I'm going to make the question too about your Dubai trip as well. I'm going to ask a few questions about that. And if you have to go back now, like you're a new agent today, and you have all this help at your disposal, things that can grow your business, and with what you've known as well, with your knowledge, where would you start?
As a new agent in terms of getting business?
In everything, you're a real estate agent, new business owner, or new realtor. Realtor is what I want to focus on. How would you start as a new agent today?
Yeah, so first things first, man, you got to get everybody from your phone into some type of software / CRM. That's exactly where I would start. As boring as it is, as basic as it is, until robots start selling to robots.
We're not there yet, though.
We're not there. So we as agents need to get the awareness of other human beings. And so the best place to start, in my opinion, is with people that already know you. They possibly like you, and maybe they don't trust you yet, but we got to get them to trust you. So we got to take them from the phone and put them into some type of CRM. Okay? Because what you can do is you can use some automation now. Now you could use what robots are going to do, which is just send out an email every other month, okay? And then call them all. As a new agent, call them and then just tell them, hey, like, are you okay if I send you some emails? I'm going to start doing some content because I saw some Indian guy and an African dude just talking about like why they should do some content. And maybe I'm going to give it a try. Are you, person that I'm speaking to on the phone, comfortable with giving me your opinion? What I know of the human race, we love to give our opinion. They're doing it right now. They're like, Jas sucks. I don't know why you liked him so much, Aziz. Or, Jas can walk on water. I love him too. Oh, thanks for telling me about him. They're making their opinion up, right? Exactly. So, new agent, call, ask for people's opinion. Don't do the, hey, do you want to buy or sell right now? You're going too hard for the close. Take your time, walk them through the process. So that's number one. Number two, as a new agent, this is what you did great in what you're doing right now, but you did this. What episode is this going to be? Do we know? 20. Okay. So for 19, it goes downhill from here, by the way. Yes. It goes downhill from here in terms of your guess. But for the first 19, you know what you're doing? Because I've seen some of them, okay? I haven't seen them all, but I've seen a lot of clips from them. You are, because you're learning about real estate still, you don't know about everything about real estate. You're asking questions that you're naturally curious about.
Exactly.
So you're, not that I'm into killing animals just for the sake of killing them, but you are knocking off two birds with one stone. Yes. You're learning, but because you put the camera on, you're allowing other people to learn with you. So as a new agent, you need to find out what are ways to invest into real estate. You need to find out why you should do a home inspection. You need to find out the 3 biggest mistakes that people make, hence why they need a real estate lawyer probably early on in the process, not the night before that they're closing. because you need to know all those things.
Exactly.
Why not just record it and let Clyde, who just moved from Paris, and their real estate is not as organized as us. We are very lucky in Canada because I've been going around a lot of continents now, and I'm starting to realize, holy shit, do we ever have it good? Because we have organized real estate. CREA, OREA, RICO, right? It's nice. And yes, we don't like that we have to pay fees.
We spend money.
We spend money, but it's organized and it's in the protection of the customer, which it should be.
It should be.
But now you might as well educate Clyde and his better half, because at some point they might buy. Yes. Now they might buy to live in it. They might buy to rent it out. They might be a renter forever. You can still get business from there. But here's another thing, and people don't know this as a new realtor. Clyde, and I'm speaking specifically about him, he's a social little butterfly. He meets all these other Frenchies that are coming into Canada, and they all go for drinks, and they have dinners, and they eat cheese. And guess what happens? One of them are going to say,
I want to buy a rent.
I might need to buy real estate. And he says, bro, there's this guy, Aziz, who's just he's kind of new, I think, but I've seen some videos of him where he's educating you on the mistakes that you don't want to make. It's a lot easier for Clyde to share a video than it is for him to say, call Aziz. Right? Because he has to really put himself out there by saying, call Aziz, because now his reputation's on the line with his friend. But sharing a video means nothing.
That's exactly what Steven did.
100%.
He just share your profile and that's it.
That's it. And now, look what's going on, right? Yes. Okay, so make sure you call everybody. Got it? Then do content. You're learning anyways. And then I think the third thing that I would do is make sure that you do you become the cool kid in high school. So I'm not sure how it was where you were from, but I have a funny feeling it was the same, because I have a lot of, like, my team is kind of the United Nations. Like, we're represented from every country pretty much, which is kind of cool, right? But the cool kid in high school was the one who invited everybody to their house for the parties.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
What you should do as a new realtor, a business owner, is just be that person in business now. So you don't have to put on parties and drink and stay up late and all that kind of stuff. What I mean by parties is just educate people, but invite them to a place. There's a reason that churches do really well. And the reason churches do really well in temples and mosques and synagogues and all that is because they give you a place to congregate. Right? Like my temple, Sikh temple, like, is generally the busiest on a Sunday morning. Everybody goes there. It's everyone. It's a community. So what I would do in business is just have everybody come, like, just let them know every Saturday we have something going on here. You can't make it this one, come to the next one. Make it. What do they do at church, bro? That's all they do.
Exactly.
Right? At mosque, temple, same thing. It's all the same thing. They're always like, make sure you come on Fridays. You know what I mean? And they're always reminding you, come. They know at some point you're going to say, let me see if I can get some help from God.
That is it.
Even, and I'm not trying to go too deep with this, but really quickly, like, think about it. Even the people that never believe in God, when something really bad happens, what do they say? God, please help me. They know, he knows, she knows that you're going to come around. In real estate, it's the same thing. We are so lucky that our product is always is needed by everybody.
Almost everybody. That's true. I'm not going to take much of our time, but I still have one or two things to ask us. I'm not going to let you go yet.
Go.
Dubai, quickly.
Yes, love it.
You were there. I lived in UAE, Dubai, Abu Dhabi. I lived in all the states in UAE for 7 years.
So there were 7 of them now.
Yes.
Okay, and you lived in all 7?
7, all of them.
That's insane.
For 7 years,
I didn't even know
lived
there was 7 part of the UAE
yes.
until I got there.
In fact, I lived the last one that I lived myself and my wife before we left. It's where people don't want to go. It's called Fujairah. It's like one of the
I've heard of that one.
I lived there for close to 2 years. So
wow.
I know that country very well.
Yes,
I love it. I still see UAE as my little home. I've not been there for over 5 years now, 4 or 5 years. You went there recently.
Yep.
Really quick, what do you think with the economy of that country, with the real estate of that country, what do you think compared to our own beautiful country here, Canada? What's the similarities, the difference that you see in economy and real estate?
Yeah,
really
look, in terms of real estate, they're going through a massive boom. I think I just read something 2 days ago that sales were up by about 30%.
Yeah.
From last year. No, I apologize. Let me rephrase that. Values were up by 30% in the last 12 months.
Wow.
Okay? Year over year. Now, to me, that concerns me a little bit.
I do. I know.
Okay, the reason is because whatever goes up that fast
Come
generally
down.
needs to come down.
Yes.
Okay? Where in the GTA, we went through that in 2021. We went up by 21.2%. It's too much, too quickly, right? You kind of want a slow and steady growth. Okay, what from a real estate perspective, that's what I like. I like to be the tortoise, not the hare. Like nice, slow and steady wins the race, in my opinion. Now, what Dubai has for them is that they have. I don't understand the political landscape 100%, but I think what I got out of it is like, well, there's one guy who makes kind of the rules, so it's a little easier to buy. Like, there's no red tape. There's not much red tape. This one man says, I'm going to build a building. That building gets built really quickly, right? Now, a lot of it has to do, some would say, like their labor laws and all that kind of stuff. It's a little bit more flexible, I guess is the word to use, so they can build a lot quicker. And when you can build as fast as they can build, it's a question of, are they going to continuously have the amount of immigration that they have right now? Because I think what we realized in Canada in the last 2 years, so 2022 to 2024, call it, is we really opened up the gates for immigration. But I think the problem was we got away from what worked really well for Canada previously, which was point system. It was based on what did you bring to the table.
Yeah, what are you bringing?
And I could say this because, look, 80%, 90% of the people that came in the last 2 years, they're my paisans. They're all Indians, majority of them, 80 to 90%. And they didn't come with education, some type of certification or whatever it's called, money. That's not what they came with. So what the problem we had on the other side as well was the government they weren't prepared. Yes. Like, where do you house all these people? It's why in Brampton, again, where all majority of my paisans are, and where I live now, you have 17 people living in a basement, right? Because we weren't prepared for it. So I think that's what the problem we ran through. I'm curious to see what happens in Dubai in the next 18 to 24 months, because generally speaking, what goes up that fast does need to come down.
I agree.
But I have nothing but good things to say about the people there. The hospitality is second to none.
The food.
The food is unbelievable.
Yeah.
I love the food, but I think the main thing that struck me there was the cleanliness.
Oh my God, that I miss.
I didn't see I didn't see any gum stuck to the floor.
No.
Like, I'm not exaggerating, by the way.
I know. I lived there for 7
usually
years.
I say, like, whatever your brain looks for, whatever it looks for, it will find, kind of thing. I couldn't find any gum, man. Like, it was really weird. Very, very clean. The people are really, really interesting because it's very multicultural. So they have that going, and that's similar to us as well. Is there a lot of outside investors investing into Dubai? Yes, because I did see a lot of vacancy. I don't know the exact number, so I won't speak to it. But I did see vacancy just in the Airbnb building that I was staying at, the one that they put myself and my team in. Like, there was a lot of vacant places, man. So that's interesting to see how what happens there. But values are generally, when they go up that fast, there has to be a correction. Yes. And so long term, though, look, these guys, which is amazing for Dubai. Long term, they want to be number one in everything.
I know.
That's the really
goal. That's the goal of the rule of
100%. I saw a clip of him in 1974, I think it was, if I'm right. He's in a helicopter and he said, "We are going to be the number one visited city in the world."
And they are now. They are.
Check for the last 4 years, the number one visited city in the world.
You've mentioned Dubai. Let's quickly come on our own country, really quick. I know we don't have time. What is the real estate landscape for you now in the last 2-3 years for your business?
Yep.
Especially, I know I say we because I was part of RDC family before. We focused a lot on pre-construction as well.
Yep.
A lot of things happened there. Yep. The last 2-3 years, what have been the business with real estate and your own personal business as well?
Yeah, look, I mean, with our personal business, we took a hit because sales have dropped, right? So we went through, in 2022, there was a drop of 50% sales compared to 2021. Well, in the market in general,
yes,
right? So we're obviously going to feel that as well. We do a lot of pre-construction, but we help about 650 to 700 families a year, 100 to 150 of those are pre-construction. So we deal with a lot of first-time home buyers, a lot of people who are moving up, smart sizing, we call it, and then just investors who are buying like income properties and stuff. And so we're starting to see now in our personal business, but as a market, as a whole in the GTA specifically, that 75-kilometer radius, we're starting to see multiple offers come up in certain micro markets at the time of this recording, whatever we're at now, end of almost 2024. When that starts to happen, that usually is an indication that demand is starting to pick up and supply is low. Are we anywhere near, the historic numbers of 2021? No, because our months of inventory across the board in that 75-kilometer radius was like a month and a half. Right now we're flirting with about 3.5 months of inventory across the board, 3.5 to 4, which means we're in a balanced market, right? But sales have started to come up, but again, nowhere near the historic numbers. I don't think we're going to hit 2021 again. 2020. The analogy I always like to use is that, and I'll answer your question what I think in 2025, because I did bring my crystal ball today. So that is in 2021 we were doing 200 kilometers an hour on the highway. Okay? In 2025, I think we're going to be doing about 120. Still fast. Still fast.
But it's
just not as fast as 200.
Exactly.
Right? What does that mean? I think sales are going to start to pick up because there's been a lot of people on the sideline because of the interest rates.
Yeah.
Now, the one thing that the GTA's always had is that we have people that have to move up in homes in terms of getting bigger homes. We also have people who need to downsize because they're getting older. Everything just kind of got put on hold for 10, 12 months, call it, because it was so expensive from a cost of borrowing perspective. In actuality, when you look at the rates going up, it's actually a better time to buy because your upfront costs are less.
Exactly.
But we're not taught that. It's when interest rates go up, you shouldn't buy.
That's the mindset of a lot of people that want to buy.
That's
Until you understand, we are saying this now because we understand the dynamics of the market. We understand the back end of real estate, why it's important to buy at that time. But people outside of our world, they see that, he just want me to buy now.
Yeah, that's what and I understand that.
He just want me to buy now.
I mean, we're
closing remark. Jas, 2 things. I'm going to put it in just one question. That would be the closing remark. What do you want Jas Takhar to be remembered for in this world? That's one. The second one, what's next for Jas in 2025 and beyond?
To your first question, I think I want people to, anybody who's come into contact with me, I want them to leave with the thought that they've left in a better place than they came to meet me. Okay. So when they come into my world, whatever state they were in, it might have only been for a 47-second video. It might be for a 47-minute podcast. It might just be a 30-second elevator interaction. I want them to have left better than when they came to me. So that's what I would love to be remembered for. I'm trying. I have bad moments and bad days as well. I try not to get it past bad days because at the end of the day, I know that we're all on whatever frequency you're on is what you attract. For 2025 and beyond for myself, I think the messaging of what I just said, as well as telling people that, look, you are enough. That doesn't mean that you can just sit, though. You are enough. You have all the resources. You have to be grow. A better version of yourself to get more.
That's true.
You don't have to be Jas. You don't have to be Aziz. In fact, it won't be sustainable. It won't be. And the world doesn't need another Jas or Aziz. It needs another Clyde. It needs another whoever you are. But you have to be a better version of yourself to get more. And so for me, I just want to be on bigger stages. I now want to be known as a world-renowned speaker, hence why I was in Dubai, and we've been going all over North America. We're heading into Europe next year, Australia, Asia. Like, those are all places I want to hit, and I want to be known as a world-renowned speaker.
Jas, I appreciate it. Thank you so much for coming to this podcast.
Thank you, buddy. Thank you.